Welcome friends, welcome back to the kitchen, welcome back to Sunday morning in the Old Cookbook Show. Today we're going to do a recipe out of this cookbook, published in 1946 or 1947. Oh, let me check. 1946. A Vermont cookbook by Vermont cooks. Now this was published fairly often into the mid to late 60s. And it uses ingredients that are mostly found easily in Vermont. And today we're going to do a recipe called Maple Butternut Pie. And some of you may be thinking, oh, there's Glen. You know, he's doing another maple recipe, always with the maple syrup. I'm not doing it because of maple syrup today. I'm doing it because butternuts. And let's talk about butternuts. First off, I'm going to get the milk into this pot. We're supposed to scald 2 cups of milk. So I'll get that into the pot. Got it on 6. We'll see how far that goes. These are butternuts. So I've got a bag of butternuts. These are black walnuts. So black walnuts and butternuts are related. They're slightly different flavors. I like black walnuts and butternuts way more than English walnuts. In fact, I can't really stand English walnuts. But black walnuts and butternuts can be difficult to get. And when you do find them, you keep your source quiet and you don't tell anybody. So that's a black walnut and that's a butternut, also known as a white walnut. So when I was young, I got a real taste for these. I knew where a grove butternut trees were on a piece of property that my grandparents owned. And so what I remember as a child was how difficult they were to crack and get the meats out. There is a specific way to get them out that is easier, but I, as a child, never got there. I pretty much doubt, where's the... Pretty much doubt that anyone out there is going to have access to butternuts. Sadly, they are exceedingly difficult to find unless you have access to a tree or know where a tree is, which I no longer do. They can be very difficult, even with the internet. There are a few places that have them, but you're not going to find many of them. They sell out quickly. It really is, you need to know somebody and not tell anybody else where to get them. The trees themselves grow in a very relatively small area in the northeastern part of the United States into southern Canada, Ontario, and Quebec. There's quite a few. The tree is itself listed at this point as threatened in a lot of places because it was never commercially viable. Really what it comes down to is never commercially viable, and the trees are susceptible to a number of different diseases. So these have become very difficult to get, and I imagine at some point in the next 15 or 20 years may be almost impossible to get. Almost impossible. Okay, so I measured maple syrup into the same measuring cup as I had the milk. I need 2 egg yolks in there, but I need the whites, so I'm going to put them into the copper bowl, and the yolks go in there with the maple syrup. I'll just give that a whisk. Technically, this should be a double boiler. The recipe says to use a double boiler. I'm going to put salt in now and the flour and continue whisking that together. I'm not using a double boiler. I have one. I know a lot of people at this point don't have them anymore. At one time, they were incredibly important. The water boils at 212 degrees Fahrenheit, thereabouts, depending on your altitude. The pot on top does create a bit of steam and a tiny bit of pressure, so the temperature might come up to maybe 220, 225, but it's steady. It's a steady temperature that doesn't get too this is a great cooktop. I can manage the temperature really, really nicely without the need for double boiler. 1940s, when this recipe would have been first written, possibly into the 1920s or 1930s, people would have been cooking over a wood fire, and temperature control would have been monumentally difficult. And so that double boiler was really important. Okay, so I'm going to stir the maple syrup, egg, flour, salt mixture into the milk. The milk was hot, but not boiling. The scalding is another one of those things that, when this recipe was first written, may have been more important than it is today. Milk then would not have been pasteurized. And so that scalding step really was to make sure there was nothing nasty in the milk. However, there are some recipes where scalding changes the way the proteins are wrapped together and gives you a different texture at the end. Scalding is very important in a lot of ice cream mixtures because of that way that the proteins are raveled together. So I've got this now on 3. I'm going to watch the temperature very carefully. I'm going to stir this constantly until it thickens, and then I'm to remove it from the fire. Gentle heat, I'm going to say that's thick enough. So let's turn that off, get it off the fire. Got the butternuts, and they have been toasted slightly in the oven. So in they go. Stir them in, and now it's time to whisk up the meringue. It doesn't specifically address the meringue. Just says fill baked pie shell and cover with meringue. Brown in oven. Let's whip it up and see. So there's only 2 egg whites, so I'm not going to get a lot of meringue. And I'm using a copper bowl, which gives a much different texture than if you were to do this with a whisk in a glass bowl or with an electric mixer in a different kind of metal bowl. You can't over mix or over whip an egg white in a copper bowl. There's a chemical reaction, and that's about as stiff peaks as you're going to get in a copper bowl. A little powdered sugar would be great in here, in with the meringue. Powdered sugar, maybe a touch of vanilla, just to give it a little bit more flavor. That's going to be quite plain, but I think there's a whole lot of flavor going on in here. Now, if you've been around for a while, you know that I loathe any pie recipe where I have to par bake the pie shell. And 9 times out of 10 it works. Today is that 1 time out of 10 where it doesn't work. I know how to do it. It's just sometimes it doesn't work out. And you know that a lot of cooking shows, right? They'd have 8 or 9 pie shells waiting so that when the first one doesn't work out, they've got spares. I don't roll that way. I just go with it. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Who cares? It's going to be fine. The pie is going to taste amazing. It's not going to win an award at the county fair. And if you've got a problem with that, you don't get a slice. So on goes the meringue. And into the oven for browning. Of course, you could just take a torch over the top and brown it if you wanted to.
Hey, Glenn.
Hey, Jules.
You're thinking very hard there.
Well, yeah. Let's get this out and we'll talk about it.
It looks kind of soft. I don't know. Let me help you out here. Oh, it's not as soft as I thought it was going to be. Huh. It looks like a cream pie of some sort. It's like a fork or a spoon.
Fork, please.
Okay.
Rough.
Do we need to talk about it before we taste it?
No, let's just dive in.
Okay. It is a little soft. I will say that. But yeah. Creamy pies often are. Is it a cream pie? No, maybe?
No, no. It's
really mapley.
Huh.
Oh, really mapley.
Yeah.
With the exception of it being, kind of a soft pie, that's got some nice.
Okay, so
it's like pudding on it instead of a...
Yes, it's a maple pudding. So it's not as much of a fail as I thought it was. When I put it in the oven, I, licked the spoon because that's what I do. And I was very disappointed because at that point, the maple flavor was muted by the flour. And I thought, oh, I don't like this flavor. But now that it's finished and it's chilled, the flavor is actually pretty good.
It's a really nice maple pie.
Yeah.
I would not be disappointed.
Yeah. I was all prepared to redo it and make it something completely what I think it should be. Because well, I guess they do grow on trees. Maple does grow on trees. and
As do these.
And so do the butternuts. Everything in here grows on trees. But, I had my father's voice in the back of my head. It doesn't grow on trees. And I thought, oh, we've wasted butternuts because they're so hard to get a hold of. Okay, so while not pretty, tastes fabulous. I was thinking of redoing it, and let me know down in the comments if you'd like to see this. I was thinking of redoing it as if it was a butter tart filling with butternut. A butternut butter tart pie.
So then you're not redoing it. Perhaps you're creating it all new.
Creating something new. Yeah. That's good. I like that.
I don't know what to say. That's a really good pie.
Okay, so
I'm trying to not eat it all. This is me thinking very hard, focusing. Don't eat the whole pie. Don't eat the whole pie.
just like cheesecake not cracking, I know all the ways of blind baking a pie shell. Sometimes it just gets away from you, and don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, because if anybody complained about the look of that pie, they'd never put their feet under my table again.
There you go.
Thanks for stopping by. See you again soon. I guess let me know if you can get butternuts. Let me know if you've ever had a butternut. If you can't get butternuts, of course, pecans, walnuts, black walnuts, peanuts.
It's actually not the dominant flavor.
It's not the dominant flavor at all.
It's the maple.
It's the maple. Again, thanks for stopping by. See you again soon. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking around. We're going to do an unboxing of old cookbooks that people send into the show. And these are books that will show up in future episodes of the Sunday Morning Old Cookbook Show. This one's coming to me from Boston, Massachusetts, it looks like. The box got a little battered during transit at the post office. Thank you very much for sending this in. I recognize your name. You often comment on the videos. Thank you very much. Okay, so what do we got? Oh. A chef. Okay. Campbell's soup. That looks like it's from the 70s. I'll find a home for that. What is this? Manufactured by the U.S. Government Printing Office. This is amazing. So this is someone's diary book. They've got the diary book from the U.S. Government Printing Office, and inside they have pasted recipes that they've cut out of the newspaper, and they've put it into sections: vegetables, desserts. Wow, that is amazing. Some Betty Crocker recipes stuck in there. That is a treasure. Thank you. Boston Cooking School, Fanny Farmer. This is from 1921. I don't have this one. Most of the Fanny Farmer books that I have are beaten up really badly. They were well used. This one looks like it's used, but it's in pretty good shape still, which is great. And the interesting thing is people refer to this cookbook as if it's one monolithic cookbook, and it isn't. It changed over time. As things came in and out of fashion, as new ingredients were being used, as trends came and went, recipes came and went out of this cookbook. This is a reprint of the original 1896. I don't have this one. I've got a very early one, and it's great to have a reprint. Several of the oldest cookbooks that I have reprints of that I can flip through in order to find something, and then I can go to the original. Sometimes the recipe that's in the reprint isn't the one that's actually in the original. It's kind of weird. They often will, when they reprint, make changes. Here's another Fanny Farmer book. They will often make changes in order to update the recipe to try to make it better, but you lose that originality. So what year is this one from? This is a much later book, 1980. You know, that's a cookbook that just won't go away. Oh, another manuscript book. So I This is wild. The penmanship is so incredible. That is a treasure. Thank you for sending this. Okay, sometime over the next few months, you will see a recipe from one of these cookbooks showing up on the Old Cookbook Show. Thank you, everyone, for thinking of us and sending these cookbooks in. There's always a treasure in every box. See you again soon.